Well, I think I can guarantee that this is a sermon title that has never been used before in the history of sermons. God has been catfished. Back last week, David said, "Are you sure you really want me to put this on the sign?" What in the world does that mean? God has been catfished. Well, you may have only thought that catfish was a delicious seafood dish that you would like to enjoy from time to time. Or you may have heard the word catfish used in its new slang way, which Tara introduced us to at the beginning, meaning a person who pretends to be someone else online in order to trick or deceive. If you get friended on Facebook by someone claiming to be Brad Pitt, and he professes that he will love you forever if you will wire $10,000 to help him settle up his hospital bill in Nigeria, let me assure you that you have been contacted by a catfish. It seems impossible, but people do sometimes fall for schemes like this. Some of these wicked deceivers are very good and very convincing. And if you have fallen prey to this sort of trickery, then you are said to have been catfished. Now, God has never fallen prey to any sort of deception, but he does have an extremely deceptive enemy who has stolen his identity and is trying to pass himself off as the Almighty. We read about this enemy, formerly known as Lucifer, the light bearer, in the first lesson for today. How you are fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of morning. You've been thrown down to the earth, you who destroy the nations of the world. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High. You know this. We've talked about this before. Lucifer, an angel, a created being, deciding that he wants to kick God off his throne and take it for himself. He wants to assume God's authority and rule over heaven and earth. He's a catfish, an imposter, a devil who prowls around like a roaring lion, 1 Peter 5:8, who is able to masquerade as an angel of light, 2 Corinthians 11:14. Every bit of his energy is spent on trying to lure people into rebellion and ensnare them in misery so he can destroy them and bring more suffering to the heart of God. He promises very good things, just like that poor bedridden Brad Pitt. But there is only despair and regret at the end of that road. You know, on Facebook, if you find that someone has stolen your identity, your picture, and created a fake account with it, I had this happen once. If somebody does that to you, you can report the fake account. And typically, after a brief investigation, Facebook will delete it. That's very handy. But God didn't have such a convenient solution at his disposal. Because Lucifer's desire to take over the throne of the universe also came packaged with many lies about God himself. That he was a liar, that he wasn't trustworthy, that he lives only to exalt himself, and he will crush any opposition he encounters at the first opportunity. This enemy catfish couldn't just be deleted. Well, I mean, technically he could have been. But that wouldn't have solved the problem, because it wouldn't have answered any of the accusations he had made against God. The only way for the catfish to be exposed as a catfish was for God to allow the situation to work itself out in real time, to show what would be the result of Satan being ruler of anything. And how do you like living in this world under his guiding principles? To expose what was true, both about Satan's character and God's character. Who was lying? Who was telling the truth? Only time and evidence could reveal the answer to those questions. In the meantime, God has spent a lot of time intervening in Satan's mess, turning his evil around for good and blessing, and warning anyone who will listen to beware. Things are not always as they seem. If anyone tells you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," don't believe it, Jesus said. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders so as to deceive, if it were possible, even God's elect. See, I've warned you about this ahead of time. So if someone tells you, "Look, the Messiah is out in the desert," don't bother to go and look. Or, "Look, he's hiding over here." Don't believe it. False prophets and false Christs, perhaps demons or people possessed by demons, are going to appear. And Revelation tells us that the ultimate showdown will come when Satan himself will finally appear on the earth as Christ, trying to deceive the whole world into worshiping him. He will not be Christ, but he will be a very convincing catfish. And many are going to fall right into his ranks. In fact, Jesus said that the deception will be so convincing that it could sweep away the elect, God's chosen ones, if it were possible, Jesus said. What makes it not possible? How will you know? Well, Jesus does go on in Matthew 24 to say that his second coming will not be secret or quiet. The whole world is going to know about it. There will be power and great glory. But do we not think that Satan can also appear with power and great glory? And does it do any good for us to think, well, I'll just wait until the second person appears? The first will be the false one, so the second will have to be the true Christ. Who's to say Satan can't appear twice in different ways? If you were suddenly confronted with a majestic creature who dazzled with light and spoke kind words and could perform any miracle you asked for, how would you know if it was really Christ or not? How could you tell? Well, I'll tell you something. I have had a very interesting experience recently. As AI technology keeps increasing, our ability to manipulate images has really just gotten out of hand. AI technology has already advanced to the place where it can generate pretty much anything you ask it to, and it can do it very convincingly. We're already there for still images, and really recently I've seen some video, AI video, that you just wouldn't even know it's not real. It's crazy. And in many cases, scrolling through my Facebook newsfeed nowadays, when I see an image on a post, I have to stop and ask myself whether I think it's real or not. And most of the time I do that, I have to admit to myself that I don't know. Even though something about the photo might make me skeptical, I can't see anything in it that's a dead giveaway. Like when AI first started and it would make pictures of people, they'd have like 8 fingers on one hand or something. It was pretty obvious, but all of that's gone now. It can do it very lifelike. So often I can't see anything in a photo that's a dead giveaway unless it's a place I know very well. Several weeks ago, for some unknown reason, on this Calhoun County page that I'm a part of on Facebook, several people started posting AI-generated pictures of the intersection in Urbandale where the Pizza Hut and the Shell station are. You might know that intersection. And in the photos, you could see the Pizza Hut sign there, and the intersection of the roads, they were always like from the vantage point as if you were coming out of the Shell station, and so you were looking across the intersection there. So the Pizza Hut sign was there, and the intersection of the roads. But then they were putting these odd things in the middle of the intersection, like a camel, or a parade, or there was one that was a car crash where the car ended up standing straight up on its front end. And all of these images looked completely authentic. The camel did not look fake. It was in proportion to the intersection. You could tell what make and model the car was. It looked very real. And the Pizza Hut was just your regular, Pizza Hut restaurant building. Except that I've been at that Shell station enough times, and I guess gazed across the intersection enough times to know that there are some details in the facade of the actual building that are missing from those fake photographs. I'm not even trying to tell you what they are. I just know that that's not a real picture of the building that sits on the corner of Bedford Road and Michigan Avenue. And I think that's what it will be like if we live to see the time when Satan arrives in person, imitating Christ. By all appearances, he will be convincing as Christ. He will have the power and the glory. He will be able to work miracles or appear to be working miracles. He will have that commanding, authoritative presence. But there is one very important detail Satan will not be able to fake, and that is Christ's character, the kind of person that he is. Satan can fake the majesty and the power, but he cannot fake selflessness. He can't fake sacrificial giving. He can say nice words, and he can pretend to be kind, but if you whipped Satan and strung him up on a cross, he would not say, "Father, forgive them." He wouldn't notice the distress of his mother and make arrangements for her to be cared for after his death. He certainly wouldn't waste his precious breath giving hope to a thief dying on the cross next to him. Satan, he can't fake any of that. Because nobody can fake any of that. A person can only do those kinds of things in such a dire situation if that's really who they are. And Satan's not. He wants to be the Most High, but he does not want to be like the Most High. So if you and I are around when the great catfish of the ages arrives on the scene, the only way we're going to know if he's really Christ then is to get to know who Christ really is now. To know him intimately. To spend time reading his word, listening for his voice, enjoying his creation, appreciating his character. To see how he has acted all through the history of this great war in his universe. To see how he treats his friends and his enemies. Particularly his enemies. There's no other safeguard than that. There's no other way to know him than just to know him. And if you do, then all the catfish will be easy to spot.